The myth of the missionary position. I'm so excited for this video because, it drives me crazy that when people think of sex, they think of the missionary position, which is horrible for women in so many ways. And it's definitely something that I held on a pedestal as like the ultimate pure way to have sex and that the whole world should be doing it. And then one day it was going to feel good for me. And then I was going to be validated and normal and everything I saw on TV. So, while it might be a good position for lights, camera, action, and for thinking about sex in its pure form, which is like that kind of sex which is not good for the woman, it's just not good for anybody. So, the myth of the missionary position is that it feels good for women. That's the myth. And that it's also that pure form of sex. Now, I thought a missionary, like Christian, pure, godlike, but I did a little research and it turns out that Alfred Kinsey, who did lots of research on sexuality, actually coined the term. And there is some misconceptions and the way he discovered the term and why he came up with it doesn't actually correlate with history. So it's this term that everybody uses, and it literally was just made up by one man. So that's fascinating. Why is it common? Um, Men control the thrust, so it feels good for men, and it's probably visually appealing because the woman's just laying on the bed, not saying anything. I have feelings about this one. Do you feel it through the screen? So, how do I move forward? A small percentage of women will enjoy this position. So, of course, I never want to make anybody feel abnormal or strange or weird at all. If you enjoy it and it's wonderful, that is fantastic for you. Keep on doing it, please. Keep on doing things that bring you pleasure and joy and delight, please. But if it doesn't work for you, here are some things that you might want to consider. Clitoral stimulation. This position is terrible for clitoral stimulation. If you just think about the angles and where the clitoris is, which is a very important place for women's pleasure because it's like the shaft or the head of the penis for men. We would never, ever, ever say, we're just going to rub your testicles and you're going to have delightful orgasms from that to men. We would never do that. So why would we ever do that to women and just say we're just going to have this thrusting in and out in your vagina and it's going to feel fantastic? That's crazy. So it's very hard for the clitoris to be involved in this position. And again, you cannot control the thrusting at all. And deep penetration is maybe a nice side course later on down the dinner table, dinner menu plan, course number 4. But in the beginning, and alone, it's just not going to do it. And it's very hard to access the clitoris. So even if the penis or the shaft of the penis or however it's working is not stimulating the clitoris, you can't get your hands in there. No vibrators can get there. So there is one benefit though, and that is skin to skin. There is like closeness. You might be able to be, looking at each other, maybe nuzzling each other, speaking loving things into each other's ears, putting your cheeks together. I was going to say lay your head on his chest, but no, he could lay his head on your chest if you like that. You can hold each other, you can embrace. Look, you can do that as part of your sexual experience without having to have this position. Why don't you lay on him and he can wrap your arms around you like I did in literally my last sexual experience. You can wrap his arms around you. You can both be naked. You can get that real great oxytocin of that delicious bonding skin to skin. You can look at each other in the eyes. Just because penetration is not involved or genitals, I mean, you can kind of rub your genitals on each other. That's nice. But just because that's happening doesn't mean that it's not a legitimate sexual experience or a legitimate sexual position. So, since I've been really bashing this one, let me tell you a position that works really well for women, works very well for me, works very well for a lot of the women that I serve in the Wanting It More program. And it's called the Starfish Position. I learned about this in the book How to Have an Orgasm as Often as You Want by Rachel Swift. So, thank you very much, Rachel. It's amazing. It's also a little bit hard to describe. So I wish I had a great visual here, but I was a little bit worried that Facebook would cut this video off if I showed any line drawings, even though I literally used all the words in this video. Hopefully that's okay with the powers at play. But I'm just going to describe it to you, all right, step by step. So imagine you are laying on the bed, laying down, and your husband is laying down on your right hand side. Do you imagine that? You're both laying down. Hello, husband. Hello, wife. You got it? Then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of go perpendicular to him, like this. Hopefully this is going to work. And then you're going to take your left hand leg, your left leg, and stick it in between his legs, like this. And then you take your right leg and stick it on top. Those are your legs, if you didn't catch on. And you can see that there is some access to the genitals. So the penis can go in the vagina in this. You might have to do some like shimmying around. You might have to put some pillows somewhere, but just a little, give yourself some adjusting time. Don't worry if it's not working right away. Just give yourself a little adjusting time. In this position, you can still see each other, you can hold hands, you can look at each other lovingly, but you have full access to your clitoris. Yay! You can use your hands, you can use a vibrator. He can use his hands, but I don't recommend that because a clitoris has got 8,000 nerve endings and it's very particular and very small. And well, it's not very small, but the external part that we see is pretty small, and it's usually it needs a very sophisticated touch. So depending on where you're at with that, I just never assume my husband's gonna be able to get it as good as me, so why don't I just do it? Makes most sense. And in this position, you aren't necessarily controlling the penetration, although you can kind of wrap your legs around his buttocks and pull it closer. But the penetration is more like a bumping sensation, which is delightful for the vagina. It's delightful. Give it a try. Starfish Position. Rachel Swift, you can pick up her book, How to Have an Orgasm as Often as You Want. I don't love the whole book. That is probably the highlight for me, but it is an excellent one. So if you ever happen to be like browsing through a bookstore or see it, just quickly go find that one and take a mental note. All right, until next time, let's just go and have enjoyable experiences with our husbands without feeling like we have to fit into any box that our culture has told us that we do. You have a body. Your body has nerves. Your nerves have pleasure capacity. Go and explore your pleasure capacity with your darling husband by your side who cares about you and about your pleasure and about your comfort and your safety and your enjoyment and your delight and your ecstasy very, very much. I hope this was helpful. Let's just all spread the myth of the missionary position. I'll talk to you later.